So I know that there's a lot of work to be done here in America, but one of the great opportunity passports is shrinking, and that is education. We are not paying enough attention to how we prepare our young people for the future. I am going to make college affordable again for middle class and working families. You know, when I was ready to go to college, my father said he'd saved enough money for room, board, and tuition, but if I wanted to buy a book, I had to earn it. So I worked all through college, during the year and during the vacations. That was our deal. Then I decided I wanted to go to law school, and I told my dad, and he said, that's not part of the deal. So I kept working, and I got a little scholarship, but I borrowed money from the federal government. I had to repay it, but I borrowed it at about 2% interest. I was not bankrupted. My family didn't have to take out a second mortgage on our home. I was not ripped off by these student loan companies that have put profit ahead of education and have really undermined the promise of a college degree. So we're going to get back to making college affordable. I've outlined all these plans on my website, HillaryClinton.com. Go to it, especially the young people, because we can't afford to continue what is happening now. 75% of the students at the top public and private colleges and universities come from the top 25% of income. That's not right. That's not America. We are shutting the door, slamming the door on too many young people. And we're also not paying enough attention to the hard-working young Americans who don't go to college. Let's start doing more with community colleges and apprenticeship programs and skill training programs to prepare any young American who wants to work hard for a job in the global economy. And we will do so much more if we start with universal pre-kindergarten, especially focused on kids who are from disadvantaged backgrounds, to give them a good start. And finally, when it comes to education, I will fix No Child Left Behind and end this unfunded mandate. So we're going to do all of that, and we're also going to reform our government, which is my next goal, because we can't do it if we don't end the cronyism and the no-bid contracts. This administration has been focused on turning America's philosophy upside down. They believe in government of the few, by the few, and for the few. Well, we're going to get back to having a government that works for everybody. We're going to end George Bush's war on science. Among my first tasks when I am president will be to reverse the ban on ethical stem cell research so we can start investigating cures for a lot of the diseases that affect people. And we're also not going to forget what happened along America's Gulf Coast. It could have happened anywhere. You could have had levees break in Central California. You could have had an even worse disaster with the collapsing of the bridge in some other part of our country. What happened along the Gulf Coast after Hurricanes Katrina and Rita was a national disgrace. If you had looked at that on TV with the sound turned off, you would not have believed it was happening in America. Fellow Americans trapped on rooftops, bodies floating down the street. We're not going to let that happen to any of our fellow Americans again. And we're going to start with an old-fashioned idea. How about appointing qualified people for the jobs we ask them to hold in the United States government? Because, for me, ultimately, this campaign and this presidency is about reclaiming the future for our children. It's much more about these young people's future than mine. What are we going to do to keep faith with them? When I started out as a child advocate all those years ago, I wanted to do everything I could to help kids who drew the short straw in life. But I never thought I would see the day when we'd have a president who would veto bipartisan legislation to expand health care for children. Well, we're going to veto George Bush's policies in the election of 2008. And we're also going to reward hard-working young people by passing the DREAM Act and giving them a chance to pursue their education. And I will work while I'm in the Senate and when I get to be president, if we don't get it done, to pass something called egg jobs, to make sure we have a system that provides the workers in a fair way to our farmers who are not even being able to get the labor that they need. This is part of giving people a better chance for themselves and their families.